Hi everyone, Bernard here, and I hope you're all staying safe and well. Welcome to my latest Citizen channel feature. Please, if you are new to the channel, push that subscribe button and push the bell notifications as well, so you know when these vlogs are coming out. And of course, do lots of stuff city past and city present, so please push that notification. But make sure your notification is set to public as well, don't forget, otherwise you won't get to know. But press that subscribe button. Please check out my links on screen as well for Facebook and Twitter, and also don't forget I've got a little film and TV channel on YouTube as well, so if you want to have a little break from football, check that out. And of course on Facebook and Twitter I will check every few days and follow and friend everyone back on there. And also don't forget I'll have a sort of links with Losing Business on Twitter. They promote city fan related small businesses, local businesses which need our help perhaps more than ever these days, don't they? So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if I can promote or put some stuff out for you on one of my magazine vlogs, my city magazine vlogs. And don't forget, I'll always give a shout out to local projects or charities, etc, etc. Just get in touch. Anyway, please enjoy today's Citizen channel feature. Thank you. Right, today, yes, 3007, a very significant figure. A while back I did a little vlog on 84,569, which, as you probably know, is the largest crowd recorded inside an English league ground, excluding Wembley, of course. That featured Manchester City and Stoke City, so I couldn't pass it by. I thought, well, I'm going to have to. I thought at the time, I'm going to have to touch upon the 3007 answer, which certainly isn't the lowest crowd in an English league ground, that's for sure. But it's the lowest crowd ever. For a competitive game, which it was. I mean, some would scorn that and say it wasn't, but the lowest crowd ever, obviously, in the history of Maine Road. Obviously, we were there, what, 80 years, was it, at Maine Road? And obviously, for a city competitive game, 3007 was the official figure. Yeah, we go back to 98-99 season. There we go. I mean, it did finish in spectacular fashion, of course. But we did forget what disappointments we were having sort of early doors in that season. It was very disappointing, certainly for the first half until about Christmas time, as we know, and obviously disappointing for us, the fans, and sort of a lot of gallows humour at the time, a lot of, oh well, you know, not much we can do about it. But yeah, I'm sure the players as well, and Joe Royal, who was manager at the time, I'm sure there was disappointment all round as far as up towards Boxing Day was concerned. Anyway, and it would be a season that would witness a couple of the biggest lows in City's history. As I said, we mentioned the crowd. There'll also be another little low in to mention. I mean, after a 1-1 draw at Notts County in the Nationwide League Division 2, the third tier of English football, don't forget, at the end of August, we sat 14th. Yeah, that dumped us into 14th, our lowest ever league position in the history of our club. So that was pretty low, wasn't it? Things would not really improve, as I said, until after the infamous York City away game the week before Christmas, where City still sat 12th then, so at least we'd improved a little bit. I think we'd gone up to the dizzy heights of 8th, but then dropped back to 12th. But in between, of course, we had this low, didn't we? We had this another low in our history when a crowd of just 3007 turned up. Me and my lad were in there, so if we hadn't been there, it'd been 3005 probably. You know, no Mr. Swales around, was there? So we could sort of probably rely on that figure as being correct. The lowest ever for a competitive game at Maine Road. Add to the fact, don't forget, that 3007, there was actually, although a couple of coach loads arrived late, there was actually 658 Mansfield Town fans. That's the team we were playing that night. So in other words, there was a minuscule, and it was a minuscule, 2,349 City fans, approximately, well, supposedly, if you can believe the figures, there that night. And don't forget, our league average ended up that season about 28,000, so it was a bit of a drop. It wasn't as though we're getting a few thousand. Our average gate at Maine Road that season for league games was 28,000, so 2,349 City fans to turn up was quite small, wasn't it? I mean, not since 1925-26 as we played in round 1 of the FA Cup. That was another low for us, I suppose. We'd never done that. I was there at that one as well. And even 11,000 turned up for that, for the first round of that. But we did actually have less in a second round replay against Darlington, I think it was 8,595. So we weren't setting any great records. Although, as I said, the league crowds were certainly, if you like, about at least 25,000. But obviously, people were making a point, weren't they? Let's be honest about it. Yeah, so despite this crowd, crowd of 3,007 versus Mansfield, it did come as a bit of a surprise actually. But I mean, I remember it was expected to be the lowest crowd. There was a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is going to be the lowest crowd ever," and that sort of inspired me. I mean, I was going anyway, but I mean, that sort of inspired me to get off my butt and think, well, if it's going to be the lowest, I may as well be there. I may as well be one of the favoured few, if you like, or the few that went. And I thought, on that basis, if you look reverse logic, I thought a bigger crowd would turn up. So I was quite surprised when it was only 3,000, and it did look 3,000. I mean, it's not as though they fiddled the gates or did anything like that. But yeah, I think City fans use it as a sort of protest vote. That season, how things back. I mean, as I said, at that stage in December, I think things were pretty atrocious. We'd done very poorly in the second division, but I honestly did think that more would turn up, thinking, "Oh yeah, we'll go because we'll be in the lowest crowd then." But obviously, that's my thinking, that's my logic, and obviously, a lot of City fans don't have the logic I have. So there you go. They're obviously more common sense than I thought. But so there you go. I mean, there was. Certainly 500 more City fans at York away. I mean, I know those are claims for a lot more than that, but there's certainly 500 more City fans at York away than for this game. So that's quite an achievement in itself, wasn't it? Yeah, we were in the Kip. I think it was in the Kipax. Obviously, there's an image up there of the old Platt Lane. I'm not sure. I'm assuming the Mansfield fans were in the north stand. I can't remember. My little brain doesn't work, and there's no real images for me to see where they were. I'm fairly sure they wouldn't have been in the main stand, I don't think, obviously. So if we were in the Kipax, I'm sure they were segregated away somewhere in the north stand. But you might know if you went to that game. I say my memory doesn't go, but even to go back to 1998, I do struggle a little bit. So they certainly had a lot of fun, though, the Mansfield fans. As I said, a couple of coach loads got stuck on the motorway, so partway through the game, obviously, they did get an addition of fans as well. So there's, as I say, but they certainly took the mick that night, and we probably took the mick of ourselves as well. I can't remember the specifics of it. I'm not sure we did. I mean, don't forget Mansfield Town, the Stags, I think the nickname, had been embarrassed themselves. Yeah, I mean, so what joy for them to come to our place and do this to us and beat us, which they did, as you probably know. We'll talk about that in a minute. They've been embarrassed themselves, Mansfield, just a week earlier. They were dumped out of the FA Cup by non-league Southport. So yeah, I mean, obviously it was a nice little turnaround for them, wasn't it? And no wonder they enjoyed it, which all credit to them. We couldn't deny them that, and I don't think any City fan there on the night did object to it. It wasn't City's strongest team, of course it wasn't, but it was still an okay team. It was still a sort of team that should have beaten Mansfield Town for this auto windscreens round one game, of course. So it wasn't a League Cup, it wasn't an FA Cup. It was this auto. So again, the first time we'd been in that as well. So you talk about lows in a season. I mean, there's probably 3, 4, or 5 lows, weren't there, in this season? Looking at these things we've talked about so far, the team that night was right in goal. Jeff Whitley, well, I won't go through the positions, I can't remember where they all played. Jeff Whitley, Tiato, Fenton, Rimmer, Vaughan, Brown, Pollock, Allsop, Taylor, Heaney, and the subs, Jim Whitley, replaced Pollock at half-time, which was a bit of a mistake, if I remember rightly. We'd been okay. We had a couple of good chances in that first half, but I think taking Pollock off, I'm not sure if he was injured or they just took him off to rest him, but it didn't work out too well. Bailey, a lad called Bailey, replaced Taylor on 55 minutes, and we had Crooks as a sub, but he was unused. Yeah, I mean, the Manchester Evening News headline, we'll just have a look at the sort of sad match report in the Manchester Evening News. Read, rock bottom, City's slapdash display leaves Royal disgusted. Well, I think it left us a few of us disgusted, didn't it? So I'll just read from that MEN match report from Richard Burgess, for the Manchester Evening News. Main Road witnessed a moment of history last night, but nobody will be telling their grandchildren about it. Embarrassed and disgusted was manager Joe Royle's reaction to yet another low in Manchester City's plummeting fortunes. A mere 3,007 supporters turned out for this auto windscreen shield tie against Mansfield. 1,018 less than City's previous lowest home attendance. Yeah, so I mean, as I said, that's why I thought we might get a little bit more, because I thought, well, that's not much to beat, is it? But it certainly was on the night. And those who stayed away should count themselves lucky, as this game was utterly wretched from start to finish. Royal reckoned his defence was in something of a trance all night. And by the end, most of the crowd were in a stupor as well. The facts are plain and simple. City were outplayed by a side who were beaten by non-league Southport just 3 days ago. It may have represented Main Road's second string, but the starting 11 still cost more than £4 million to assemble. There you go, heady figures there. There were players out there with something to prove to both me and other clubs, said the angry City Supremo Royal. But only Danny Allsop and Michael Brown emerged with any credit at all. Rest assured, there were one or two words said at the end. The sole saving grace was that there were only 3,000 people here to see it, and I apologised to them. Royal was right, it was terrible, but not the first time City have been humbled in their own patch this season. The old failings were back again of missed chances and slapdash defending. Allsop should have put the Blues ahead as early as the 7th minute, but he poked Jeff Whitley's cross just wide. The young Australian was in the right spot again 19 minutes later, but his downward header from Neil Heaney's cross was brilliantly saved by impressive Mansfield keeper Ian Boland. Yeah, I think he had, again, like most teams do when they come play City, the goalkeeper had a good game. City were made to pay early in the second half when debutant Stephen Rimmer brought down Mansfield's Lysden Christie in the box, and Lee Peacock duly converted from the penalty spot. 3 minutes later, and Peacock made it 2 with a spectacular 30-yard free kick which deflected past the stranded figure of Tommy Wright. Allsop collected a late consolation with a fine individual goal in the 73rd minute, but Royals men rarely threatened to do much more. Their auto windscreen challenge had petered out before it had really begun, thankfully. City will doubtless hope it turns out to be their last experience of the much maligned shield, but don't bet on it. So a bit of negativity there from Mr. Burgess, obviously, as far as perhaps being back in it again the following season. And who can blame him? I don't think not a single City fan or a City fan there that night, or a City fan wherever they were that night would probably think anything different. I mean, just to look at the match stats on this cracking game, this entertaining game, I'm sort of tongue-in-cheek there. 7 shots by City in the 90 minutes with 5 on target. I think it says the goalie did quite well. And Mansfield has 6 shots, only 1 less with 4 on target, and obviously managed to put 2 of them in, although 1 was a penalty, but fair enough. But I think Mansfield were worthy winners that night, to send their fans home happy. Of course, a bigger crowd, unashamedly, as quite rightly so, a bigger, obviously those that had stayed away turned up for the next game 4 days later with over 24,000 at Main Road for a home game with Bristol Rovers. So nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to have a go at any City fans who didn't go that night. As I said, it was just, I would have gone anyway, no matter what the circumstances, because I was going. Simple as that. So there was no problem there. But I can fully understand at the end of the day, same situation as it is now. Money might have been tight, etc., and say we had a magnificent following away from home, even in the second division. So, yeah, I mean, things take priority, don't they? But there you go. Obviously, about a month later, things did begin to improve, as we know, and to appreciate the highs, of course, you have to suffer the lows. And personally, I've seen a few. I've seen a few in my time, because I'm not a spring chicken, as you probably tell. But on the night for the City fans, this was just pretty comical, actually. I mean, at that stage, you get to the stage where you're that bad, it doesn't matter. You just go with the flow and have a laugh about it and criticise your players, etc., etc. I'm sure a few boos rang out at full time. My memory doesn't go back that far to realise, but we weren't afraid to boo our players in those days. There was no detriment to it. It was just making your feelings felt, and we paid our money, and we had that ability. Now we can just slag them off on Twitter and Facebook, can't we? But in those days, that's the only way of letting them know that we're not very happy. So I'm sure booze did ring out at full time. I'm sure we did have a bit of fun while the game was going on, although the atmosphere, if I remember right, was atrocious, as you would expect, with the 2,500 City fans, even less than that, spread out over the Kippax. So it wasn't the most fantastic. Well, I think we had a laugh. I always try and chip up with a couple of quips, so I'm sure I must have come up with something during the game. It was that bad, but all credit to Mansfield. Yeah, we did stay to the end, or I certainly stayed to the end, I think, as most fans did. I mean, that's what we used to do. And believe it or not, I possibly, even now, I would think back and think I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I mean, unlike York away, I wasn't there. I'm not going to claim to be like many do. I wasn't at York away, but I was at this one. I was at Mansfield Town at home, me and my lads. So that's something we can talk about and remember together. And we can say, can't we, me and my lad can say that we were there that night in the lowest ever, because we're no longer with us, Main Road, is it? The lowest ever Main Road crowd for a competitive game. And hey, it's something, isn't it? It might not be great, but hey, we were there. Have you got any memories of that night? Were you there that night? Anything you could sort of share with me that might sort of prick my little memory as well of that special? I don't think the weather was that bad. It was an awful. I've looked through some of my programs of that season, and it was awful because a lot of them are rain damaged. It must have been a terrible 98-99 season. It must have been awful weather because a lot of my programmes are soaked, from Main Road, etc. So it wasn't the greatest season for weather-wise, I don't think. But I don't think it was particularly bad that night. I mean, obviously it was December, but I don't think the weather was too bad. It was obviously cold, but yeah. But let me know if you got any personal memories. And thanks for joining me today. We'll say we've had the 84-569, which we should be rightly proud of. And I was there in this one, 3007. So I'm rightly proud of the fact that I was there. And it's not too bad, as I said. It wasn't the League Cup, it wasn't the FA Cup. All right, it was the auto windscreens, but still a competitive game. But let me know. Hope you enjoyed that this little episode entitled 3007. Whatever you want to do yesterday, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your families. More importantly, let's all look after each other till we meet here again on the Citizen channel, or perhaps have a flit across. Have a look at my film and TV channel if you don't have a break from football. I only ever ask one thing of you, don't I? Please stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.